Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Square Triangle. I don't know what that facial expression was there, Dallas,
I turned the lights on and it just hit me in the face. Sorry.
But we're keeping it in.
That's in the flow.
This week we are going to be talking about Forbidden Door 2 and our thoughts on the matches as they go along. As a note before we start, the Adam Cole versus whatever that guy's name was,
Tom Lawler.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is. It didn't happen because Adam Cole had an illness.
Yeah, they suspected the flu, and Tony Khan sent him home so he didn't get anybody else sick.
Yeah, so. Good on Tony Khan.
Yeah, I mean, the guy who cares, like, he continued paying people, like, after injury and stuff, too. Like, he paid for stuff even, after they left the company, just he's a good guy.
It helps when you have infinite money that you do from Warner Discovery.
Warner Discovery family owns a bunch of sports teams.
Infinite money.
He's got the Rosebud cheat code from The Sims.
Right.
Yeah. But other than that, overall, I thought the pay-per-view was really good. I'm not rating it as highly as a lot of my peers seem to be rating it, but we can get into that as we get into the individual matches. Don't get me wrong. When I rate something as lower than God tier, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it wasn't all it could have been, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was definitely
it's still a very good pay-per-view.
Yeah, there were definitely some matches on here that were just like, oh, this is an exhibition match. We don't have a thing here. But then there were some matches that actually had storylines built into it. Just the natural progression of some of these wrestlers, through the companies that they worked for and everything. So this definitely just feels like it's a pay-per-view. It's like, here is fan service as opposed to here are storyline things. But once in a while you get that one match that has a storyline, and boy, will we talk about that fucking match.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we will talk about the main event.
But
first off, we have MJF versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. That just kind of came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah, it was I don't know what happened I don't have cable, so I don't watch the TV episodes. But this is one of the matches I feel like it's just one of those exhibition matches. MJF isn't going to lose this, so it's just a matter of what's going to happen in the ring.
So the story going into this was that Adam Cole actually wanted to face off against MJF, and in typical MJF fashion, he's just not having it.
Yeah.
And so when Hiroshi Tanahashi came out on Dynamite, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam Cole goaded him into it by calling MJF repeatedly a coward.
Yeah. Basically he was just antagonizing MJF in this match, and in true MJF fashion, he pretty much just starts yelling at Adam Cole. It's like, you call me a coward, I accept. And pretty much that's how we got this match. Okay. Yeah. It was because Adam Cole was just absolutely goading MJF into it.
Yeah, and this was the feud that also would have given us the Adam Cole Filthy Tom Lawler match, because MJF had Tom Lawler and his partner come out and jump Adam Cole before, quote unquote, making the save for his tag team partner in the little storyline that they're going through right now. But again, that match was canceled. Tom Lawler did get to perform for the crowd, though. He was a dark match before 0 Hour started, so people still got to see him, which was at least good for the fans.
Yeah. I have no idea who that guy is.
He's a big name from MLW for the most part. So he was also a former UFC guy, but he's been kind of wrestling on a lot of I'd say like the B or C tier like indies lately.
As a matter of fact, I think he was the first ever NJPW strong champion for New Japan's American American sub promotion, NJPW strong, back when that was running. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's worked for New Japan, Major League Wrestling. He's kind of just been all over the place.
Okay, so he's still doing his tour before the WWE eventually scoops him up for being a former MMA person. Right?
Probably.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Good to know. Going into this match, I guess I haven't seen Tanahashi in a while, and age has definitely caught up to him.
I asked that when we were talking to him. I was catching this up. We're watching this all at separate times. We didn't watch this for the most part on Sunday night. And I was like, has Tanahashi started like getting a power lifter's body? Because he definitely had like more of a barrel chest going into this. And it's like, no, he's just getting old. Like, he's losing his physique.
because back on, I believe, it was Collision on Saturday night. I was watching Tanahashi wrestle Swerve, and it just seems like he was out. It just seems like he was having a rough go out there. You know, he looked a lot slower. He looked like the age is starting to catch up to him. It looks like injuries have started to catch up to him, but still, he's still performing at a decent level, though.
Yeah, he's
still getting these big matches.
Level.
Yeah.
He's Tanahashi is like the John Cena of Japanese wrestling.
He's the ace.
He's the ace. Like, he's the guy that, you know, in the back pocket of like, hey, we need a star to go against this person. Send him Tanahashi.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we have a new champion. We need that new champion to look strong. Let's send in, you know, Tanahashi. He'll make him look great. Like, Tanahashi has the ability to put people over.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my usual thing that I do with these pay-per-views, and I just kind of made notes throughout the match, and it starts in this match, and it literally goes on until the last match. This fucking kid in the audience.
Yep.
I thought I was like, are my headphones just picking up like all the ambient stuff? Because these can actually get like a lot of things for some reason. I'm like, no, this kid's just being so screechy this whole pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And there is a little payoff, sure, but I'm just like, I just want this kid to shut the fuck up. Like this whole pay-per-view.
There was a moment where MJF is yelling at Tanahashi, and he's like, you think I'm a coward? Well, I'm gonna make you a joke after this. And then that little kid's like, you're still a coward.
And there's like one match later where he just starts singing the Canadian anthem, but like nobody's singing it with him. And I'm like, God damn it, this fucking kid. This was your pretty basic match, I would say. It was just a showcase of MJF and Tanahashi. The ref had a great spot in this match, which I really liked.
Yeah,
because it was two parts. He was holding the ropes during the submission hold, and somebody pointed out to it. So he went to check, and MJF moved his hand away, like trying to hide it. And then he did it again, and MJF called him out, and the ref kicked his fucking hand off of the rope, which was great. The refs had a lot to do in this pay-per-view, for better or worse. So
we'll get to that later.
There were a few things that I made notes of, and I'm like, they're getting the refs involved in a lot of these matches. So,
well, Bryce Remsburg in general is like a very animated referee. He's been like that since he was in PWG, Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And he's been like he's a very animated referee. Even if he doesn't actually isn't actually a combatant, he will make himself involved. And was he the referee when I'm thinking way back in like Chikara, where they invented like the slow motion grenade?
I think so.
I think he was the referee at that time.
Maybe.
If you don't know what that is, look up like 2005 Chikara. Do yourself a favor. It's sports entertaining.
A lot of my notes for this is definitely the kind of match I would say either this one or the match after this. These are the matches you start the show with. If this had been any later in the card, I think it would have killed the momentum of this pay-per-view moving forward. There was a match that I felt killed the momentum later in this pay-per-view, but we'll get to that one too. And
I think that's true, but I also still am taking umbrage with the AEW championship opening. I hate it when WWE does it. I hate it when any other promotion does it. Yes, I get it. This card is stacked. From top to bottom, it is stacked.
You could have put the CM Punk match.
I think if you literally just flip those two matches, we're good.
It would have been good, but to MJF's credit, he did give a storyline reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he was supposed to go on later, but he told, I think it's just him being MJF. He didn't want to wrestle in Moxley's blood, which I think is a good excuse.
That's fair. Like, I get it. That's fair.
I can excuse that, that AEW championship match being first for that reason and that reason alone. And on top of that, you had, all these other great matches on the pay-per-view that, I don't know, like maybe there was some ups and downs, in some of this and along the way in some of these, but I think this was a decently paced pay-per-view. It's a lot slower paced than your average
2 hours
pay-per-view.
Flew by. Like I broke this into 2 nights to watch this. And the first half is definitely feels the slowest just for the number of matches, but that last 2 hours just fucking explodes.
Yeah, it's like action. A slow build.
Yeah, they got the pacing of these
You don't realize it's like 20, 25 minutes for that main event that we'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah, the longest match of this, and the thing, it's not even like an incredibly long set of matches. The longest match in this is about 35 minutes, and that's the Omega Ospreay match.
Yeah.
So, you get the visual pinfall over MJF when the ref's distracted. Tanahashi gets like a 7 count, and then the diamond ring, which is cool that they're still doing that. Like they're keeping that as something in the show. Knocks out Tanahashi for the pin. Pretty standard heel finish.
Yeah, I like stuff like that. Like, do you remember the guy in? I think it was just Don Callis back in ECW, who had his he had a neck brace and he just wore that for like 20 years.
Oh, that's Joel Gertner.
Joel Gertner, that's the guy.
Yeah.
So I like stuff like that.
I like how it's been the last 3 years MJF has won this diamond ring, and it's like that can easily be tied into a storyline also where he I'm gonna lose the diamond ring one day, so I can't fall back on that. And like they're keeping these little things attentive, because I mean, if WWE did, Braun Strowman is the longest reigning Saudi Arabian champion that they had for whatever that greatest Royal Rumble win was.
Yeah.
What was that Facebook post a few weeks back? It was it's like Braun Strowman passes 5 years as greatest Royal Rumble champion. And it's like they just never followed up on that. So
and
it's
I
just
completely forgot about that until it was brought up too.
Yeah, It was just a random Facebook post I came across, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot that they made that title for absolutely no reason. So
they made it for a Royal Rumble.
Then they fired him.
Yeah. Well, he's back and he's still the champion.
He's injured out. He's out injured too, I think, right now. I think he recently got injured.
Surgery recently.
I like it. This is a
pretty standard
right home. Yeah, pretty standard opening. I don't think there's a whole lot to write home about this match.
This was your pretty standard. We're gonna open the show with a 10-minute match, and
I will say as a note about MJF in particular, and I wrote this in my notes. I'm not a fan of his promo work anymore. It's starting to slide for me. I don't think he's grown as a promo worker. He still, knows how to say things, and he still knows how to generate heat.
But it's usually just the same stuff.
Yeah, it's the same stuff over and over. He's like Cartman.
Yeah, you need to give him. You need to give him somebody that he can play off of in a different light, like somebody who is I can't really shit talk you because you're going to shit talk me back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I loved about him and Punk.
He's to get back feuding with Punk.
Put him back up against Ricky Starks. He's probably the only person I've known that's bested him on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then we go on to our next match was Satoshi Kojima versus CM Punk, and I think I was like, this is just a weird matchup in general, but I think we all settled on maybe this is just somebody that CM Punk respects from New Japan.
This is also the quarterfinals for the Owen Hart
Cup, which I feel like CM Punk's going to win since he's in this tournament. But Punk also switched that on. He's like, Canada hates me because of everything that happened, so I'm going to play up into a heel in this match, and he's being the comedic heel for most of this match too.
He has some pretty interesting spots where he does the leg drop.
I do like the everything that came out after this pay-per-view, where I think New Japan and Kojima were very happy that the US audience gave him this much respect arriving here. Mm-hmm. Because he's always been a New Japan guy, and he's always been one of their workers, not one of their champion guys for the most part, I think. And he's been around for a while, and the fact that people over here can give him attention and cheer for him and everything was definitely a good thing.
He earned it. He slapped the fuck out of Punk like he was a young lion, which is truly something he needed.
And a side note about Punk, that's going to continue once he gets back to the States. It's going to be mixed in some spots, but this crowd heat that CM Punk has been getting lately,
he fed off of it. He fed off of it.
He did.
I did make a note here after the lariat over the barricade. Dasha almost got taken out by Punk, flipping that barricade.
Yeah.
She had to get out of her chair to avoid getting crashed on. And I was
almost had a wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah. It became pretty much a slap fight for a bit, and then you had Punk yelling lariat and Kojima when he had him in the corner, which I thought was really funny.
He also countered it in Japanese when he was on the turnbuckle punching.
Yeah.
It's it, ni, san. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it just went back to a standard, just them beating the shit out of each other. Kojima just starts chopping Punk and is just doing it, and the crowd's loving it. GTS, and then a little, even though he was kind of playing heel, there is a show of respect to Kojima at the end of this match. By Punk. And then there was something that goes through the rest of the pay-per-view at times, where they play with the exits on the stage, because Punk like looks at the heel one. And then he like looks at a camera guy and he points to the face one. He's like, go there. And then he like goes into the face one, because it's like, am I a heel or a face? So like, that's the second time something like that comes into play in this pay-per-view. Or there's another time where that goes into this in the pay-per-view, but I just thought it was really like funny meta humor, since AEW's kept tight to that as a thing.
I don't know if that's a meta thing, or if that's
or
like
just Paul just had no fucking idea which one to go out.
It might just legitimately. I think legitimately some of these wrestlers just had no fucking idea which area to go through.
They should start color coding them blue for good guys, red for bad guys.
Can't do that in certain states. They'll start shooting the place.
I think
up.
it was also Punk kind of just playing into it too, where I do think it was like, I was playing a heel that match. Do I need to go out this one or go out the face?
I think he was just doing that in jest as a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing.
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of fun being had on this pay-per-view, since it is canon in ways, but it's like it's not overly serious.
There aren't a whole lot of storylines that are being. This isn't like usual AEW pay-per-views where it's like the season finale. This is like the crossover special.
Yeah, this is like if it's like a comic book, this is one of the annuals that come out every few issues.
Yep.
I fucking love it.
Yeah, for sure. This is like if Into the Spider-Verse was a wrestling show.
Yes. We'll get to that too in this next match. Apparently, they only want to reference New Japan and AEW titles because PWG champion Daniel Garcia did not have his title or any mention of that as he was coming out for
blown
this.
The fuck out. Excalibur seen Malding.
This international title 4-way that we have, but I also think it was a reason to kind of maybe protect PWG because their champion is the one that got pinned.
Excalibur swinging at the air.
So, one of the notes I had here for this was Orange Cassidy coming out first feels kind of wrong. Especially out of all of these guys, he has the most title defenses. He has the longest reign. They definitely gave it to Zack Sabre Jr. though as kind of like the big name of this match.
Yeah.
Also made a note that him being in the Mighty Don't Kneel feels weird if he doesn't have the other guys around, so I don't feel that why they needed to mention that. I forgot he was even in that faction, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. So one thing I like about this match is just in the entrance is that they reference the animosity, like immediately reference the animosity between Shibata and Zack Sabre.
Yeah. I also made a note here. Shibata looks like he has killed a man. Like this man just looks like a threat coming to this ring.
He has killed a man and he almost died in the ring. So
yeah.
And on top of that, Orange Cassidy really did a good job selling all of the damage he's taken over the course of the many title defenses that he had as well.
Defenses, I think, since he's won it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Definitely the juxtaposition between him being like the slacker gimmick and then like being the hardest working champion in the company.
It's crazy because I saw a thing off Facebook because I've been just getting fucking like weird wrestling pages on thing because the algorithm's fucked. It's like people are arguing like it's like it feels like Cornette's list of what makes a good wrestler just doesn't apply to this because he doesn't want it to apply. Orange Cassidy can sell. He can tell in-ring stories. He has the psychology. He can actually do wrestling. Like he can do mat wrestling and high flying and all this other stuff. But it's just because of the gimmick is like nobody serious, quote unquote, likes him. But even Daniel Bryan's like, I want to wrestle him. Like
I want us. I know we're just a small time podcast on a channel. I want us to make a movement to stop fucking listening to Jim Cornette. His ideas were antiquated in the Attitude Era.
The argument I make with my friend is I will listen to him for the history side of it. I'll listen to him for stuff going on in the 70s and the 80s because that stuff is interesting to me, like how they used to do stuff there. But my God, get him out of modern wrestling. Like, please.
I mean,
Cornette,
I can tolerate Cornette on Dark Side of the Ring, because he kind of moves.
He's talking about the history.
I love him.
He's talking about history, but
he has
as far as modern
historical
wrestling,
knowledge. Yes.
Yeah, he's outdated. Okay, it seems antiquated and outdated when it comes to him. He just needs to I guess, sit in the corner and shut.
For the people who are in esports,
Russo, shut the fuck up. It's like,
for the people who are in esports, Jim Cornette is the Thorin of wrestling.
God, I hate that comparison, but you're right. That's an awful comparison, and I fucking hate it. Like,
I'm right.
God, you are, and I hate it. But back to this match. So we get a really fast start. Orange Cassidy kind of pushes two of them out of the ring and goes for a pin on Garcia, and then with a kick out, he uses the momentum to dive in the first 30 seconds of this wrestling match.
Like he started with his slacker kicks, but eventually I think it was Zack Sabre who tries to swing on him. He ducks under, gets the pin attempt on Garcia, and just dives out. And I thought that was a really cool spot.
A lot of this match is dedicated to Shibata and Zack Sabre Jr. And even when Garcia's trying to get involved, they're slapping him and then going back to slapping each other and then pushing him away and slapping each other.
He's out here. Daniel Garcia is out here almost hitting the gritty on worldwide television.
And I'm just watching this match and I'm like, this is good fucking technical wrestling.
It is.
We had two great technical wrestling matches in this pay-per-view, and God, this is fucking one of them. Shibata and Zack Sabre Jr. are fantastic together.
And the surprising part was Orange Cassidy kind of showed technical prowess against Zack Sabre Jr. at one point in that match. I mean, Zack Sabre Jr. was countering him. He was countering him right back. I mean, that was kind of impressive for me. And like I said, it's like you guys said, he's supposed to be, the slacker, the aloof gimmick. But he is really one of the bright spots in AEW right now. I wish more people had a lot of more respect for him.
Yeah. Orange Cassidy, to me, it feels like if you put him in the ring with somebody who is like a ring general or someone who is established that can go in the ring, I want to see what he does with CM Punk, to be honest.
Yeah,
because I think that would be a good match. I think that would be a really good match, even though it's like a styles clash, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he works to the level of the person he's working with.
Yeah, everything played off itself. We had from the first time we had the Orange Cassidy Shibata sit down and slap the shit out of each other spot from their previous match. Then again, Orange Cassidy goes for all of his finishers, but his fucking hand is injured, so it's not as effective. And you just have all this great in-ring storytelling. And watching this match, I'm like, just give me Shibata, Sabre Jr., and Cassidy at All In. Just give me that fucking triple threat.
As little a storyline as we got going into the pay-per-view, in the match itself, we got a lot of storytelling.
Yeah, there was a lot of history in this match. And again, it just did feel like Garcia was just here to take the pin, which we all knew he was. Mm-hmm. You have a match where three people are listed champions, and then you are a listed champion, but you're not being mentioned as one. You're taking the pin. We're not
either taking the pin or he was going to win it. I feel like one of the two.
I feel like that was also Excalibur's call. It's like, hey, if you're going to have my guy lose, we're not going to mention that he's my guy. A lot of these people might not know PWG, so it's fine, but we're not going to have my guy lose.
For context, there, Excalibur is one of the 7 owners of PWG.
Yeah, it's him and somebody else, I think.
There's 7 people that own PWG, and Excalibur's one of them.
Yeah, it's for pro wrestling.
That's why I'm making the joke he's swinging at the air because they're not mentioning his company.
Yeah,
his title.
Yeah, it's a Pro Wrestling Gorilla. That might be a name people know it by.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people come from there. A lot of people have that as a stop in their wrestling careers.
A lot of people who came through in the 2020s, in the early 2020s. I know we're 2023, but late 2010s, early 2020s had a really strong stint in PWG.
I mean, even Sammy and KO did. So
yep,
it's one of those stops. It's a lot of the big names now have gone through Ring of Honor or gone through PWG or Combat Zone Wrestling. It's it's one of those baseline ones where you start getting to the next ones. I just want to see more Shibata and Zack Sabre Jr. I need more of it. It's so good.
I wish it was easier to watch New Japan in America.
Yeah.
It's almost intentionally hard, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, because I think New Japan, they only show clips and stuff on Access Television, which is not in a lot of homes in America. So
Nobody
yeah, you'd have
fucking
to
has
probably
access.
so basically your only route for getting New Japan Pro Wrestling here is to go to NJPW World, and
Yeah.
buy their streaming service.
Which is fine. It's worth the money. It just
Yeah, it's just
you gotta get there.
You just wish it was more readily available,
Mm-hmm.
This is why we're not an all over wrestling podcast, because we don't have time for 6 different companies.
All 3 of us work full-time jobs.
Yeah, so we're like, all right, we're gonna sit down and watch a pay-per-view and then just kind of piece it together from whatever we can watch in the weeks between.
Yeah.
And I mean, God, we're recording this and this Saturday's fucking Money in the Bank, and I forgot about it until you guys brought it up again, and I was like, fuck, I have a busy weekend.
My fingers are gonna hurt.
I got nothing going on this Saturday, so
yeah, I was just like, God damn it, I forgot I had that. So that actually cuts a day into my stuff that I wanted to do. But
welcome to wrestling in the summer. Rapid fire pay-per-views all over the place.
Yeah, we have like 4
kidding.
coming up in the next like 2 months. So
yeah.
Yep.
Then this match also has a storyline of, it feels like Orange Cassidy is just getting desperate now, because he literally steals the win from somebody else to keep his title.
He's been doing in the last few defenses, doing like slightly heelish, like just a little taste of like a heel-ish move, like stealing the victory from somebody else, stealing the victory from Shibata, hitting the PK on Garcia.
Yeah.
Just tossing him out of the ring and then pinning.
Yeah, like he's doing what he's surviving now, I think is what me and a coworker brought up. Orange Cassidy isn't winning, he is surviving.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a great storytelling route to go through. I do just kind of want Swerve to come back into the picture, because I think Swerve would be a really great international champion.
Yeah, I think so too, but he's busy doing whatever he's doing.
He's doing Swerve things. Yeah, I mean, this was probably one of my favorite matches on the pay-per-view in general. I mean, there are 2 that are above it, but this one is definitely probably like my 3rd favorite on this pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. This one is, I think this one edges out Omega Osprey for me, but just barely. The top 3 for me are like a game of inches.
Yeah. The next match we have is, I guess, them kind of giving the New Japan title a little more importance, putting it later than, the AEW one. This match also didn't have a story going into it, aside from we don't know who you are to each other. The real story here is what happens post-match. But it's the Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Sonata match. And this was a pretty good back and forth match. I mean, Jungle Boy looked strong in this match regardless.
There was a lot of one-upsmanship and like trying to do each other's moves in the match. They had including a Poison Rana that looked nasty.
The one that Sonata took.
Yeah.
I think Sonata didn't get enough air when he went over it. He kind of landed on his shoulder coming down.
Yeah,
I noticed that. I was like, that doesn't look like it went right, but at least he was protected doing it. So we had the back and forth like chest slaps, a bunch of like submission attempts. We had Jack being put into the skull end and then swung around like he's fucking Claudio, which was a great looking spot. And I don't think you could do that to anybody else but Jungle Boy with his size.
He did to Orange Cassidy.
Darby would be like, fucking do it. And throw me. It's like,
throw me like a rag doll.
Oh, there was also like at one point in the match where Sonata wrapped Jungle Boy up and like, I think he called the Paradise Lock.
The Paradise Lock, where he like boxes them in. Yeah.
Boxes him in and he just drops right in his ass.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Milano Collection AT who invented that move. And shout outs to my friend who used to love Milano Collection AT that we don't talk anymore, but wherever you are, you're doing great.
Yeah, this is pretty standard, just champion versus challenger match. I mean, they're going to make Sonata look strong, but they did let Jungle Boy get a lot of attention in this match too. Kind of an abrupt match to end. I mean, it was a Shining Wizard into a moonsault, and then just a pin, and I was like, oh, that was fast.
I like this. I think this match for me tiptoed that line of becoming, if it went any longer, it might be stale, but if it stopped like any more abruptly, I'd be like, well, that sucked.
Yeah, it felt off because it felt like they were getting into like this big crescendo, and then it's just like the pin came. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
I kind of want to chalk that up to like the weird pacing of this pay-per-view, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like, okay, we might have had a match go a little too long, and here's what we're planning for these ones.
I think this was one of the effects of having Adam Cole not have his match. Because I feel like they had all of their times good, and then that match got dropped, and then now they shuffled everything around.
And then they had to add and subtract minutes here and there, and you can kind of tell.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the moonsault, just hitting a single moonsault, and then for the pin, it's just like, oh, okay, that seems kind of abrupt, but whatever. I mean, he's champion. He retains his title. New Japan champion, looks strong.
Mm-hmm.
And then post match, we get a heel turn finally from Jungle Boy as he decks Hook at the top of the ramp. And I think we all brought it up that Christian Cage wins again.
Yet again.
Oh, Taz sold this tremendously.
Taz left commentary the rest of the night.
The way he reacted to that.
Taz was off commentary after this for the rest of the night.
Taz is actively mauling the rest of the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool having Taz like leave to take care of his son after this, you know. Like,
I was gonna say, for context, Taz is Hook's father.
They look nothing alike, by the way, so it's impressive.
Yeah,
but it was good. It was like, his son just got laid out by this guy, so he's gonna leave commentary for a bit. Even
when Taz was in shape in ECW, he still looked nothing like Hook.
He looked like Taz looks more like Tomohiro Ishii than he does Hook. Like,
we'll get
they're about the same age too.
Yeah, I like my notes for Tomohiro Ishii when we get there. Just violence compacted.
Oh my god.
I kind of like this heel turn. I'm with it.
I think it was needed because people were kind of getting tired of him as, I guess, a face, because like it was all talk. He never really won the big matches when he needed to. Everything after the Cage feud just kind of felt meh. I mean, he was great in the Four Pillars one, but he wasn't the strongest of the four there. I think
one day he's going to be a really good world champion. I want to see him lose to Claudio Castagnoli for the ROH title, and get a few more world title defenses before I can see him posing a legitimate threat. But I think this heel turn will go a long way to solidifying that.
And I mean, to be that star, to be somebody who can do both sides, he has to have a heel turn eventually. Like, he has to be on that side of the coin to work out that character too. Because I mean, you're going to get stale as fuck if you're a babyface the whole time.
Yeah.
So there was also a lot of "you fucked up" chants going on when
there were a lot of chants in this fucking pay-per-view. Again, the crowd can make or break pay-per-views, and Canada lit this pay-per-view on fucking fire with their chants. It was great.
Yep.
But yeah, we got a Jungle Boy heel turn, and as the time of us recording this Dynamite tonight, we're going to hear about it. So,
woo!
Yeah, I think this is Jungle Boy's first true test, of being a superstar. Yeah, and I think he's going to get it. But, we'll just see how this heel turn goes.
Yeah. I think he'll kill it. I think he'll do good.
Yeah, he's great in the ring. The weakest thing is his promo work, and I really hope he can start cutting his teeth a little more on this side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to one of the wackier matches in this fucking night.
So we've got Matt and Nick Jackson, Hangman Adam Page, Tomohiro Ishii, and Eddie Kingston. Hey, look, everyone, that negative employee everyone has.
Second favorite match of this pay-per-view.
Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite.
And then we have the Blackpool Combat Club with Konosuke Takeshita and Shota Umino.
Yeah, a death jutsu shirt as Moxley was wearing.
So he had to blur the thing that's because it's the shirt actually says 0 fucks, but he had to blur marker that in.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't see what it was, but I saw very quickly on the Hangman and the Bucks, they had a very long note plate for their thing, and I'm like, who is fucking writing these?
I'm sure one of either Matt, Nick, or Adam are writing them.
I also want to point out there was a thing that came out on Twitter after this from Being the Elite. Before their matches, they all did the Elite little eyebrow notch that Eddie Kingston has. All the Elite got one. So they all looked like, it was like, yeah, it was hard to notice, but there's a being the elite thing from them backstage. It's like, you know what, we all need to work as a team, so we're all going to look like Eddie. And they all gave themselves like the little eyebrow notch that Eddie Kingston has.
Eddie Kingston for me is that coworker you have, that all of you have when you work, that just has nothing good to say about anybody. Just constantly shit talks everybody and everything.
He's ready to fucking go.
Filter. But he's Eddie. He gets away with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We keep making the jokes. Eddie Kingston is just a guy who showed up to fight people. He's not even a real wrestler.
It's not even just showed up to punch somebody.
And there's a lot of history in this match from all sides. The reason Eddie Kingston was brought in is being former friends with Moxley. He doesn't think Moxley is doing this for the reasons that Moxley is saying he's doing it. And there's a lot of storytelling in this match. It's like, Moxley, what the fuck are you doing?
Specifically wants to kill Castagnoli.
Oh yeah, he wants to destroy Claudio because of all the animosity.
Not like Claudio at all. At all.
It just feels like to me, for the last like 3 or 4 feuds that Eddie Kingston has had in AEW, they've boiled down to Eddie Kingston doesn't like this guy, so he's just gonna like punch him.
Eddie Kingston was slighted years ago and he had to let go of it.
Yeah, exactly. Man literally too angry to die.
Man, that is Eddie Kingston. Man literally
like 15,
too angry
20 years ago, he's held on to this forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eddie Kingston has some age to him too. But he doesn't look like a wrestler. He just looks like a guy who showed up to beat the shit out of you.
He looks like some random dude from New York just ready to punch somebody. Because he is a random dude from New York
who's ready to punch somebody.
Exactly.
So
but this match was, like we said, like it got ugly fast.
It did. This match had a lot of animosity. The match starts with Umino and Eddie after Claudio cowardly tags out to leave Eddie in the ring without him, which was a great little storytelling thing. I mean, this whole match is just like back and forth bullshit of like the best kind.
There were a few good. There was a lot of good moments in this match, but there's a few good ones, like Konosuke Takeshita and Ishii getting into like a chop fight.
And then just Konosuke Takeshita just knocking the fuck out of Ishii.
Yeah, he just like knocked him flat.
And it's great because as a character, you know, Tomohiro Ishii is the guy who can just take the punishment and everything, and he's like the guy who will fight you. He's the stone pit bull. But just Konosuke is just like a fucking elbow and just lays out Ishii.
I can't remember the last time somebody knocked Ishii on his ass like that, though. That's the thing.
Konosuke looks so fucking good.
Ishii.
At 20 something. At 20 something, I'm like, fuck, I cannot wait for this guy to just have a career like this.
He's barely into his prime, and he's this good.
Yeah, he's gonna do so good. Like whatever promotion takes him up is gonna be lucky to have him.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments of this match was the slap fight between Eddie and Moxley, and then the brawl happens around them.
You mean the 5-minute chop off?
There's a chop off, and then like in the middle of that chop off, just the rest of the team start brawling in the middle of the ring as they're just slapping each other.
As they're just chopping the shit out of each other.
The visual of it was great. Like I loved that visual.
To the point where, like, after they stop chopping, after Claudio mercifully breaks that up, like Moxley goes down under the goes out of the ring and goes to the Japanese announce table and like grabs one of their ice waters and like pours it on his chest.
Yeah, I saw that too. Like they're all either on the ground or like around the ring, and Moxley takes a minute to like soft off, like, oh god. Yeah, I mean, this whole match, it's like you just have all this back and forth. You get the cowboy shit chance when Hangman and Konosuke are the two in the ring. There was a great like spinning elbow into like a dive that just knocked somebody out. I think it was Konosuke that took it. Like just so he dove through the air, trying to close on him, just got hit by an elbow and just laid out in the ring.
And there was like one spot where Hangman Page, he booted Konosuke Takeshita onto the Bucks, and the Bucks held him up, and he just did a running moonsault,
a running shooting star onto him off the outside, which was a great spot.
It was crazy looking.
And then he hits another moonsault later from the top turnbuckle, and I'm like, fucking Hangman, it's just
Hangman was going off in this match.
Like, this was a great showing from Hangman, all things considered. We know everybody else can have a great match, but I mean, Hangman's always been like, he's been that like hidden, like explosive energy. A lot of his matches are more tame, but when Hangman goes, he can fucking go like the rest of them.
And he went off in this match. Like, he was attacking, he was going here, he was there, the moonsaults, everything. Like, Hangman had a really good showing in this.
There's a really good spot where I think it was Shota Umino was in the ring, and he was going up against Ishii, and then Eddie Kingston just comes back into the ring, and he gets sandwiched by Ishii and Eddie. They both lariat him, and then one of them, then they do the Enziguri Gamengiri combination.
Yeah.
Just looked very well done.
There was a really good double team here too, from the Jacksons, where it was like he hit him with like a backbreaker while also doing like a swinging neck breaker onto the knee. And I think I pointed out when we were talking about it on Discord, it's like I love how the Young Bucks just kind of yell moves like they're in a video game. Or they just kind of
yelled out, "You're dead."
They're not yelling out moves. They're yelling out
like
mean things. They're yelling out mean things to say to their opponents.
Yeah,
go to hell. You're dead.
Yeah, it's just like I'm like these guys are just fucking game characters.
Basically,
they have. If AEW Fight Forever had sound bites, those would be them.
I mean, Nick Jackson pretty much made himself a game character in the last pay-per-view where he had the exploding super kick. So
that's true.
He had to get a certificate or something to do that. Like they had to go to like some department to get permission to do that spot because it's a firework.
Imagine going to get a license to introduce a hitbox in pro wrestling.
The moment in this match that really got me, because I mean we can talk about this match like all day, but it's just a brawl. Like this is Brawl the match. That isn't Anarchy in the Arena. Like this is the closest thing to an Anarchy in the Arena match in a ring.
This is the closest thing we're getting to Fallout from the All-In Scrum from last year. This is the closest thing we're getting to Fallout from that.
Still think we're getting a blood and guts match between these guys.
I think it's going to probably lead to a blood and guts because this rivalry is just getting to that.
Yeah, all out, not all in.
There is a moment here that has interesting storyline stuff that they could build off of, especially now since we know that Danielson is injured, just in case he can't make it back to All In. Kingston saves Moxley from a double super kick. I mean, Moxley is his friend, and he's wondering just like why he's on the Claudio's side. Like that's basically what their chemistry is boiling into. It's like, bro, why are you fucking with this guy? Like. But it's just this whole thing where it's like, okay, that's interesting. And then after the match, Kingston doesn't want to deal with the Bucks about it.
He walks Ishii out.
He hugs Ishii and then they walk out. Like, he just loves like wrestling these guys that he looks up to.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least wrestling with them. Ishii nails Yuta with the brainbuster and gets the pin, which is an interesting finish, especially after Yuta pins Omega in the last pay-per-view. Just having Yuta take the pin this time.
I mean, that was probably the if this is a pay-per-view where no storyline gets advanced and this is just a crossover special, that's probably the way to go.
And I mean, this is also Wheeler's role in this faction. If the team has to lose, it's probably going to be Wheeler taking the pin. Because you're not going to have Danielson take the pin, you're not going to have Moxley take the pin, you're not going to have a champion and Claudio take the pin. So this is Wheeler's responsibility.
Yeah.
But Ishii getting the pin was really neat. I'm glad it wasn't an AEW guy. I did it. This was one of those moments of like, hey, look, New Japan. So I think after counting it, it's 6 AEW wins and 2 New Japan wins at this pay-per-view. So
still like that.
But then again, you're right. We do have like a mixture of teams and everything. But
the one note I had is that Moxley didn't blade this match.
He did not, and I'm pretty sure Tony Khan might have fucking told him not to, because it's like we're saving the blood for Omega. It's like, and they saved the blood for Omega.
We'll get to that in just a bit.
This next match is one that I feel was like cut for time in a detrimental way.
Yes, I agree.
This is the Willow Nightingale Tony Storm. This is Willow coming off of a win against Mercedes after she got injured in the match, and they let Willow go over, so she's now the New Japan Strong Women's Champion. It starts pretty early in the match where the Outcasts get ejected. They also had a moment before that where they let Willow look pretty strong, taking out the whole team by herself. I like seeing strong tank baby faces. And I think
Yes.
Willow fits that role really well. She's smart. She's not going to let them distract her. Like, she handles both of them and gets right back into the ring with Tony.
Yep.
The Death Valley driver onto the apron had me scared for a second. Because I feel like she came down really hard on like the side of her head and her shoulder rather than on her back like she was supposed to. She then lifts her up and hits her with a second one. They get ejected. Willow does a sweet moonsault, and I'm like, this is just a female Vader. Like, she moves like Vader does.
Mm-hmm. She really does.
For her size, like she's so
cruiserweight.
agile. It's crazy.
She moves like a cruiserweight for real, and it's impressive. Really, I mean, she has like a really good mix of both power and speed. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the power is definitely something, because there's a point where, you know, Tony's like pawing at her face with her boot like a cat would. Just like trying to taunt her, and Willow's just like basically hulking up, and I'm like, I love just this strong baby face. And then
I like it better now when it's not everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I like it better now where it's not everywhere like it was in the 80s and 90s.
Willow is a strong babyface in that respect, because I think she's one of the only few currently going on like that. Everybody else who has taken on Tony and them have fallen to distractions or, you know, stuff like that. But Willow's been smart enough to keep her head on a swivel with that.
It was a really good way to put her over as she is a champion.
Yeah. This was a weird match conclusion, because I feel like this was a match that was cut for time. She's trying to go for the splash in the corner. A ref gets pulled into the way to distract her. She gets hit by like a very quick package Storm Zero and then gets pinned.
She gets eye gouged too.
She gets eye gouged and the Storm Zeroed. And it's a pin. And I'm like, and I made a note like, this is a bad finish to a great showing.
I think this match could have. I think this match definitely was suffered from the influx of time that they had to allocate.
Because the way that I'm thinking about it, I can't imagine they gave Cole and Lawler more than 15 minutes. Like, even if that. So you're probably putting 2 or 3 minutes into these other matches, or taking away stuff to let people go a little longer.
And unfortunately, this is one of those matches that I feel like they got cut because of that. And it showed, because it just felt like one big exposition of a match. Everything went quick. It was sudden, and then it was over. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, this one was just one of those matches where it was like so abrupt. I'm like, what? Like that's weird. But I think this was the
next match.
I guess this was just kind of the weakest match on the card for me. Just
the
finish. It made Willow look good. Yeah, it made Willow look good,
really good.
But it's just like, for how fast the match ended, it just kind of threw me off a little bit.
I think it was a cooler match for the previous match with Moxley and those guys.
Oh, definitely, because up next is the fucking match, one of the matches of the night, which I think we're all up and down on what is the best match of this night.
Yeah.
I think we all have different opinions, but this is mine.
Top 3 is like inches, like I said.
Yeah, this is definitely what I consider my match of the night, even though the main event, I feel like, is only because whatever time they had was hindered because of injury.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of see the last few minutes of that match kind of drag out, because you now realize that Danielson's dealing with a fractured forearm.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Omega Ospreay. This match had a hell of a hype package starting this match off. And then Ospreay's video too, of him watching the monitors of his loss and everything. Like, they put production into this opening.
Like the close up of him wincing when he takes the turnbuckle as a brainbuster. Yeah.
And then the spot catching people up on spots that will come into play in this match. Omega, bashing his head through a table, all that shit. Like, this was a great storytelling promo of like, here's where the animosity is.
Okay, so about that, this is one of those New Japan Pro Wrestling style promos.
Yes.
Because they do these on their pay-per-views a lot. So I felt like this match was a very NJPW match. It wasn't even a typical AEW match. It had all the elements of the New Japan Pro Wrestling match, from the promos to how it's to the entrances and how it started.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
also
so-
used the rules apparently of a New Japan title match.
Yes,
They made
20
sure
counts.
they made sure to point that out at the start of the matches. This is using AEW rules or New Japan rules. Don Callis is coming out fucking sleazy as hell. He has personal security. Like,
Don Callis came out for this match, but did not come out for Takeshita earlier, which I thought was very interesting.
His
Yeah.
security looked like Israeli soldiers. It was fucking hilarious.
I want to know if they were
His-
local guys or if they were guys from another promotion, because they looked like they had bodies as like bodies of wrestlers. Like they looked like they
His-
were.
Probably were.
His security guys looked like a watered down and slimmed down version of AOP.
I miss AOP.
Yeah, me too.
I miss NXT AOP. Those guys were fucking great.
Yep.
And I made a note here. I don't know if you guys felt the same way. There's something with Kenny being with the Elite that whenever he just comes out alone, it just gives him this aura of like just being like a more serious wrestler. Like
He
it's
is
just
the best bout machine, specifically when he comes out by himself.
yeah, like it's just this thing where like, you see him with the Elite and you see him like, you know, being this great in-ring performer and like friendly and everything, but when he comes out alone for these matches, there's just like this difference to him.
Mhm.
And I
There-
watching it,
there's
I'm
a
like,
sense
fuck, man.
Yeah, there's a different aura again because there's a sense of seriousness with Omega.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
a-
when he comes out by himself, you can just know he's just going to take this match to the limit with Ospreay.
I
You
think
know,
it
he's
was.
going to. So what's that?
I was gonna say, I think it was this media scrum or like an interview in the past where he said that New Japan Kenny and AEW Kenny are two different characters.
Yeah, in that show.
And this is New Japan Kenny.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This
This
is
was-
the cleaner.
This was definitely a New Japan match through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is the second one of the first times tonight where the bell rings and the crowd goes fucking nuts and they haven't even done anything yet.
Yeah.
Like, it's this and it's Okada Danielson. We start off pretty slow, New Japan style, a lot of mat wrestling. The crowd hates Callis, some Callis sucks chants. And then, I mean, where do we even start with this fucking match once shit gets going? Like,
There's an exchange
Start
like
with the
minutes
announce table.
in. Well, there's an exchange minutes in where they both try to hit their finishes on each other.
yeah, I did that. I made a note for that too. The one winged angel attempts, the Oz cutter miss, a snapdragon into a standing flip, and then they just kind of look at each other for a little while.
Yeah. But yeah, there's the spot where Ospreay goes to make Kenny feel the same way that he felt when he like bashed him into the table at Wrestle Kingdom.
And then he sets it up on the ring and drives Kenny through it. I mean, before even doing that, Kenny was already busted open.
Mhm.
That's where he bladed, or that's where he got busted open. Is
Yeah.
in that area, in that time frame. I wanted to make a note that this match felt like a greatest hits from Wrestle Kingdom, where they went through
Yes.
like similar spots.
You had your standard Kenny, like New Japan thing, the fireman's carry rolling to him standing up into a moonsault off the corner. Like you
Mhm.
see that a lot in Kenny's New Japan matches. It does kind of slow down after everything gets back into the ring and after Don Callis is ejected, which I made a note here, having two matches back to back with ejection spots is kind of feels weird. But
I hated this one, and we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll get to it now. He comes back,
he does come back.
and Paul Turner does nothing about it.
Yeah, it's a weird
Yeah,
thing.
So, we'll probably get to that when we get towards the finish. But I
By the way,
want to
about Paul Turner, he was really annoying in this
I
match.
did make a note here that Paul Turner is being very involved in this match.
A little too involved to the point
So-
where it annoyed me.
So, I want to remind people who are like wrestling fans but aren't like in the know. The referees don't actually know what the finish is. They don't know who's winning. That's intentional to make sure that it stays organic when they count
They
to three.
are the the in-ring pace basically. They're like
Yes,
they signal for like, hey, here's the minute, here's the spot. You know, that's the
and they'll say something like "go for the finish," but they don't know what the finish is until it happens.
Yeah.
yeah. That's what happened, I think, at WrestleMania when Brock pinned Undertaker. The ref didn't know, so when he counted 3, he was like, "Fuck, I'm fired," because he didn't know that Undertaker was supposed to lose. Like,
So
it was a panic from him.
So what I think happened in this match is that Paul Turner was like, "Oh, he caught the heel. The heel gets kicked out. That's just what you do."
yeah,
And then Don Callis played with it, of course, because that's what he does. But when he came back and nothing happened, I thought that took away from the match a little bit for me.
yeah. I feel like this is the match where you get Red Shoes from the Sonata match and you put him into this one. Like, I feel like this is the match that Red Shoes should have been the ref for, which we also did mention in Jungle Boy Sonata. Red Shoes was the ref for that match and the crowd loved him. So, but yeah, like this one, I think the ref choice here might have been bad for this. I mean, even if he's just doing his job, like he's doing it very, very like by the book and almost like aggressive sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Paul, chill the fuck out, man. Like,
let him cook.
Let him cook. I just have like word spaghetti of just moves here. Shooting star press from the top of the turnbuckle onto Kenny. There's a very awkward Oz cutter onto the apron where Kenny comes down like 3 seconds after Ospreay does. Like, it was a very weirdly timed cutter onto that apron.
He gave the old Ronda Rousey bump right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ref being
Scott Steiner.
So that was all before the table spot, because I have a note here. Will slamming Kenny's head into the table spot. Only this one doesn't break like the table did at Wrestle Kingdom. Still a wanker chance. And then here's where we start seeing Ospreay be very heelish for the Canadian crowd. First things first, he licks Kenny's blood off of himself to a "you sick fuck" chant breaks out, which I always appreciate from the AW crowd. The fucking V triggers that Kenny can land. Then we have the Shawn Michaels moment of Will Ospreay taking the Canadian flag and using it to floss his ass with.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the Royal Rumble 1991 moment where Kenny Omega just starts fucking him up with it.
Yeah, this gives Kenny his second wind, and Kenny turns Will inside out. He starts throwing him around the ring with the flag around his neck.
Yep.
Then he hangs him outside the ring for a second, and then he gives it to the annoying kid in the crowd.
Which is a payoff.
Which the same kid that was yelling the whole night?
Yes, unfortunately. Which I'm happy to know that the guy he took the flag from in the first place was a plant and not an actual audience member. Because I'm pretty sure that audience member would have gone to that kid to get his fucking flag back.
Like, knock the kid out, like, give me my fucking flag back.
And I mean, this is where it's at this point where I think this match just starts going into like a new gear. Running V triggers into barricades, slamming his face into the steps, the DDT on top of the steps. This is where both people are really starting to bleed now. And then you get fucking Spanish fly counter into more heel shit from Ospreay, where he locks in a sharpshooter. And then
I have a note that he locks in a crossface and the Toronto crowd is stunned. Like Chris Benoit is the only person who ever used a crossface.
Oh, but he was triggering that Canadian PTSD
he did it
from the
for
crowd.
that. The thing is, like, they knew he was doing it for that fucking reason, though.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing. It goes from the sharpshooter, Bret Hart, Canadian hero, into crossface. And you can tell on Ospreay's face that he's just indulging in this crowd heat. And I'm like, if this was the 80s, this man would have been shot. Like,
he would not have survived the trip home.
Somebody would have jumped the rail by now.
Yeah. And then it's just more and more "you sick fuck" chants. Like, the crowd really knew why he was doing it, and just like they told him. I wrote out here, I really want this kid to just shut the fuck up. Oh my god.
There was a really good visual of when Ospreay had the sharpshooter on. They got a really good close up of his face where it's like all red.
Yeah. There's the fucking kick, I think, to Kenny's head that Will gives him. Just like this loud impact, just like punch to the side of his head. And I mean, I have just some notes here. It's just like it's just like a move salad.
Yep.
It's just
Osprey goes for Stormbreaker. Kenny counters it into what looks like Deadeye.
yeah. So starting here from my note, the fucking kick to the head. The Oz cutter into the knee. Kenny collapses. A Snapdragon into a Snapdragon. Poison Rana. Pile driver. It's a 2 count.
Wait, what else? Kawada kicks? Put some respect on Kawada's name.
Then we have like a bunch of counters and strikes. Another 2 count. Callus comes back. Stormbreaker gets countered, and I put it looks like a Deadeye. A pretty rough looking Deadeye. I don't think Kenny got the grip right on it.
Shout out to Adam Page from earlier.
3 knees to Osprey, kind of getting a second wind. The Screwdriver makes its comeback into this long running storyline of screwdrivers and Kenny's forehead. So
yeah,
hits him with the Screwdriver, goes for the pin after a Stormbreaker, and Kenny gets his foot on the rope, and the crowd goes ballistic. Like, you could, like, the audio feed, I think, cuts for a second because of how loud they got. It was such a good spot, and I got hyped. Like, this is the moment where I was like, I'm fucking sold on this match. Like, this match is badass. The
finish comes like not long after that, where Osprey goes for the one wing. Osprey counters the one-winged angel for like the 3rd time, and then hits a Tiger Driver 93, and then that like so painful.
Yeah. So after the crowd goes nuts, Osprey hits the one-winged angel. This is right after the rope break. Hits the one-winged. Kenny kicks out at 1.
Yeah.
And goes nuts.
The crowd loses their collective shit once again. Kenny is definitely playing like hometown hero here. We get strikes, we get kicks, we get knees, we get brain busters. The one-winged angel into a suplex, I think, was really good. Like, just Kenny adjusting it into a suplex. Yeah, the Tiger Driver had me fucking worried.
Because that was brutal looking, because
that looked brutal, and we all know Kenny has a bunch of injuries too.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
right on the back of his neck,
and that is not the scariest fucking neck injury or the neck move that we get, because Danielson takes some fucking neck moves, and we know his career.
And so after Tiger Driver hits the Stormbreaker, and then hits the
Hidden Blade into a Stormbreaker. And then we get the 3 count. There's a New Japan US champion. I found out it was holy fuck this match. Like,
yeah. And we kind of knew this was going to happen because Kenny's staying with AEW.
Yeah, and Osprey is going back to New Japan. So, I mean, they want their title with their guys. I think that's the trade-off with all these partnerships is like, we'll put our title on Omega, but Omega's never going to be here. So let's take our title off of him and put it with one of our guys who will be here. And I feel bad that they're always in that position, because I think this is the 2nd time it's happened because of Moxley.
Yeah, I was going to say that happened with Moxley too.
And I'm like, New Japan, stop putting your belts onto the AEW guys. Like,
or keep doing it, you know.
Or keep doing it.
So keep doing it, because that's how they get their
we get the
brand
payoffs at Forbidden Door.
Like, exactly.
Yeah, this fucking match, man.
This match was good. It was a very good
this match was so fucking good.
This is basically the match where Osprey and Omega just became legends.
I think I counted. I counted it too. It's like the last like 4 minutes of this match is where all this shit happens.
Yeah.
I think from the rope break with the foot to the final Stormbreaker is like 4 minutes. And I'm like, shit, man. He takes a one-winged angel, kicks that at 1, then he takes a Tiger Driver, and then he takes all this other shit, and that's like 4 minutes. Like, it's just like, hey, screw 100. We're going to 110. Let's just.
If this was like a wrestling game, Will Ospreay would have burned through like 3 or 4 fucking special bars by now.
Yeah.
This is definitely it. Between this and the Okada match, like, this is probably my match of the night. This was such a good fucking match. I think I want to see Kenny and Ospreay just do this forever. Like, I think this is just the rivalry that they can have.
This is
at least one more match.
Yeah, this is the Rock Stone Cold, I think, for me, in terms of feuds for AEW New Japan guys. Like, they just have this chemistry, they have this intensity, and if they just do this all the time, like, I think I'll be a very happy wrestling fan.
After the match, Callus walks Osprey out. Michael Nakazawa comes out and walks out Walks out Kenny Omega.
Yeah, no
I
longer
haven't seen
really.
Nakazawa in a hot minute.
He wrestles occasionally, but he is serving more of a backstage role now. So
Yeah.
a lot of these guys who came in at the start of AEW, if they're not wrestling on Dark or not getting TV time, I think a lot of them have transitioned into backstage roles now. So
Good for him.
yeah, I mean, he's a great guy. I love him as a comedy wrestler. Like, I would love to see more Michael Nakazawa.
Naka.
Just him in the oil. Like, that's what I loved about early AEW. I loved how like ridiculous early AEW was, and now it's kind of settled into like a more serious like brand.
It definitely did the thing that the WWF did in the 90s, where it's like really goofy, and then the Attitude Era hit.
Yeah, it was definitely like
history is cyclical. I want to put it that. I want to just say that history is cyclical.
Really missed the initiative, by the way. That was a good group.
Yeah, I do miss that. Dude, that's one of the best feuds that AEW Dark had ever had. The two people who always lost going for their first win. And then it was two of the three, like the first two matches had them double knockouting each other. So they actually went to a third match where Brandon Cutler got the win.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's great fucking storytelling. Like even for lower guys, like that's just great like storytelling. Then everything like the Fuego del Sol, who apparently has left AEW, which is kind of disappointing. I really liked him as an enhancement guy, but people need to do what they need to do. So
you can't stay in one company forever. Even in the world of like WWE, even in the world where WWE was the only game in town, you don't want to stay in the same company forever.
No, you don't. Then we get the cool down match for this because thank God the crowd needs it. Like.
The Suzuki Appreciation Society for one night only.
The Suzuki Appreciation Society versus Darby, Sting, and Naito. Les Suzuki Gods.
Les Suzuki Gods. And Darby Allin, Sting and Tetsuya Naito and their
Darby.
estranged and their small child.
Yes, Sting, his son, and their wacky uncle, Naito. Sting looks like he's going back to Joker Sting, which is interesting because I think they're talking about having a match with Sting and Jericho and Darby and Sammy, and Jericho's bringing back the Painmaker, and I'm like, if Sting's going to come out as Joker Sting to like match this energy, like I'm glad to see that Sting is also still changing his character after so many years in this business.
It's kind of been
good.
Oh, it's kind of been the story with Sting and Jericho though. I mean, they've been two guys that have just over time been able to evolve their characters.
How did WCW not do this?
How did they fumble this? And that was my next question.
It's wild that they never met in WCW, to my knowledge.
Anything. Like the fact that they haven't met anywhere is absurd. Like even
what happened is Jericho had the stink of being a cruiserweight, and they treated the cruiserweights like a circus act.
He was a cruiserweight back in WCW. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
And even a lot of their cruiserweight guys did leave also to go to WWF. So
who also treated them like a circus act.
Yeah, I mean WCW's cruiserweight were like some of my favorite things. That when I was growing up, like I love those guys. But yeah, the fact that for how long both of these guys have gone, even if it's like some off-brand, indie fed, like doing like a super show or something for like charity, like I think that neither of these guys have ever seen each other face to face like this. And we're just now getting it. I'm like, thank God. At least we can mark something off of a crazy bingo card that's out there. Yeah. A Sting Jericho match. We can mark it off.
I made a note that when we'll get to it in a sec, but when Jericho and when Sting and Suzuki are in the ring, the combined age is 119 years.
We brought that up in the Discord. This is an old match.
Yeah. This is like a WCW style match.
This is early years TNA in terms of age right now.
Yeah.
When you have all the old WCW guys coming over to TNA.
Yep.
But both of these guys are still so good. Like they're still so good.
It's wild. I made another note that Darby Allin is like checking off another thing on his Death Defy list by getting into a strike fest with Minoru Suzuki. Who has absolutely killed the man with his hands.
I love the build up. He's like laughing at Darby and he like pats him on his shoulder and then he just brushes him and then just lays out Darby.
Just lays him out.
Like he does the thing where he like holds him and then goes
Yeah,
Wham!
and
But
he
he kind of did that.
hits
He kind
him.
of did that. And the mayor was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I kind of like it, kid, but brace yourself."
Oh, there are two moments in this match where Darby just gets the shit knocked out of him. The first one
That
is
was one.
the Suzuki knocking the shit out of him. We have the whole thing. This is kind of just your standard 6-man tag match. Darby goes for his little speedy like dive through the ropes and get hit by a Judas effect, and then just lays there for 5
nasty.
minutes.
And that's the second time he got the shit knocked out of him.
Because the rest of this match is just Naito and Sting and Darby like laying on the ground outside of the ring. So yeah, we're back to Naito and Sting. I think Sting was supposed to move from this table because the way that Sammy sells it is like Sammy knocked himself out with this move.
Yeah.
So what I think was supposed to happen is Sammy was supposed to go for the 630 off the rope and Sting was supposed to roll off. But I think Sting timed it wrong and Sammy came right down on top of Sting and went through this table. But Sting gets right back up and Sammy stays laying out outside the ring.
Yeah.
So I think the spot was Sammy tries to do a thing and then just sends himself through a table. So, yeah, both of the young guys just knocking themselves out in this match, I think is the running theme here.
The other two of the four pillars.
Yeah, it's just your standard back and forth, and then we get a Naito pinning Suzuki for the win. So
I like that because it wasn't just Naito pinning Suzuki; it was tag team wrestling from Sting and Naito.
Yeah,
that was the finish.
And they work really well together, oddly enough.
They work really well for people who have never tag teamed, to my knowledge.
Yeah. I don't think they have. I know Sting. Did Sting go to Japan? I think he went to Japan.
Sting went to Japan. Sting went to like
Japan. But that
Japan.
was way before Naito, I think, showed up on the scene. So
yeah.
There was a funny moment in this where Sammy and Jericho do their pose, and then Suzuki comes out and like rests his head on top of Jericho's like.
The camera pans back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a great little thing because they missed that on Dynamite, I think, where they went for that. And as Suzuki's coming in to like lay down with them, the camera cuts to the outside of the ring, so you don't see it in the ring at the time. And they're like, "Okay, we need to fix that. Let's do it at the pay-per-view."
Yeah.
But
this was a solid match.
It was a solid match, a solid 6-man tag. Face team got the win. A little slower than everything else, but it was for the build-up for this fucking classic that we got.
Imagine, if you will, the rest of this is like a 5-course meal. You've got all of these like nice hearty meals coming all the way down. You've got a couple like little sandwiches here and there to cleanse the palate. And then you're given this fucking 40-ounce porterhouse, just slapped it on your plate.
Yeah.
This
Eat
is the
that,
steak and
bitch.
potatoes.
This is the steak
and the asparagus. This is what this is.
This is the steak, potatoes, bacon wrapped asparagus.
This is me going back for my third roll of sushi at a buffet.
Yeah, exactly.
This is me eating all the meats, all the veggies, everything I get like at a Chinese buffet, and then it's like, oh, I'm so full. Let me go get a few more of those shrimp sushis.
Like, oh, I'm so full. Let me go get some hot pot.
Yeah. Brian Danielson comes out to Final Countdown. It's apparently a one and done.
Immediately marked out.
It's a one and done because Tony Khan says that it apparently cost him as much as an AEW contract would. So he's not going to hold on to that music license.
So that happened, and then the reports came in that they actually purchased the label that had that.
Yeah,
so it might be cheaper in the future.
Instead of getting the license to the song, they bought the fucking company.
It'll be easier to license it later.
What kind of 5-dimensional power play? It's just like, oh, it would be easier just to like own it.
Yeah.
Billionaires, man.
They also Danielson did not know he'd be coming out to this song. They kept it from him.
Yeah. It was really funny.
Yeah, it's just heel run Danielson in this company has been fucking gold. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just also happy that Okada gets his money drop when I thought all the fake dollar bills started coming down. And I was like, I'm glad they did not spare that.
Hey, call it a money shot, you coward. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's the money shot. But I'm just like, I'm so glad they were like, Okada, Rain the money, just all the money, all the Okada bucks.
It's a good entrance.
Again, bell rings. Holy shit! And this is awesome. Starts off the bat.
Where do we start with this match? Like,
this match was probably the pinnacle of technical wrestling.
This is a clinic.
Yeah,
like,
there should be no doubt in anybody's mind that Bryan Danielson is one of the best technical wrestlers to ever live. Like, he is just that good.
And Okada is just keeping up with him the whole time.
Yeah.
This is the match I've wanted ever since Bryan Danielson made his way to AEW. And when that New Japan Pro Wrestling partnership was announced, I was like, if they don't do this match, they will have wasted this whole thing. And they finally got around to doing it. And I'm so excited about this.
And I mean, they weren't going to do it immediately because that's leaving money on the table. They want to build it up.
They built it up for a couple of years, and then we finally got to this point. And I'm like, yes.
And the thing is, I think the story going into this too was like, this is Okada coming out to challenge him, I think, out of respect for Kenny too. Because I mean, with everything that BCC and Elite have been doing, like, they've been attacking Kenny for a lot of the time too. And you remember that Kenny and Okada had some of the best matches in New Japan just a few years ago.
Yeah.
This was storytelling. This was technical wrestling. Like, Danielson had a goal in mind. He was just going to work the injured arm of Okada this entire match. And ironically injured his own arm.
So when you watch the match back with the context that Bryan Danielson,
I know exactly when it fractures, and I can tell by how the match slows down. It's the elbow drop, the second elbow drop.
Okay.
Where he rolled over onto his side to take it. Okada came down right on the middle of his forearm.
Gotcha.
If you watch it with that in mind, like, from that second elbow drop, the match just slows down. Entirely.
Elbow drops in this pay-per-view have been weird. Okay, they've landed wrong. Like,
elbow drop Punk's nuts.
Yeah.
And Okada just fucking breaks Danielson's arm with an elbow drp.
And then Punk gets a receipt in that match where he elbow drops Kojima's larynx or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Let's see if I'm looking through my notes here. There was the spot here where I think Danielson took the tombstone onto the ramp.
Yes.
And I think there was also a very, very hard neck breaker onto Okada's knee that he took.
Yeah.
And seeing that, I was like, fuck, why are we doing it to this guy in particular? Why is this man taking the neck injuries?
I know the tombstones were very safe because
it was visually a very safe tombstone. There was about a good
visually it looks painful as hell, but
you could tell
actually do the microscopic look.
It's 2 or 3 inches off the ramp, and I'm like, okay, it was very safe doing that too, which I'm thankful for. I
made a note that Kevin Kelly does not know how to say Kazuchika Okada's name, and he commentates for New Japan.
Yeah. There was a moment here where Danielson took a drop kick from Okada while sitting on top of the turnbuckle. And from his reaction, I don't think Danielson knew he was about to take that spot. Okada hits him and you see Danielson rolling over on top, freaking out, trying to grab the rope. So I'm like, I don't think he knew he was about to take a drop kick when he was
he might have just missed his footing there.
Yeah, it was a very
lot of stuff going on the turnbuckle.
A very scary fall though outside of the ring, which I'm glad he was able to catch himself from making worse. Yeah, I mean, there's so much in this match, and the thing, it's not even a lot of action. It's just the psychology of it all.
And then we get the spot that I think took it down a little bit to me, but I think we'll get to
Can I guess
why it wasn't as bad. Guess.
Can I guess it's the fake medical scare?
Yes.
Yeah, when he starts convulsing.
When he starts having a seizure.
When
even Okada's moving, rolling him over.
When it's Danielson doing it, I don't think it's a thing you should be doing in a match. Because everybody knows Danielson's injury history. So
it's not just that. Seizures affect me personally because my older brother has seizures. But even taking myself out of that, I don't think it was as bad as when you live in a world where MJF throws beer at a kid and gets a slap on the wrist.
Yeah,
I think we're good here.
It did just abruptly stop the momentum of this match though.
And I think that was intentional. But I think what happened is during this particular spot where he's like fake convulsing and he like moves him over on the side. I think this is Danielson being like, "Oh, my arm's fractured. Okay, let's wrap this up."
Because this was right after he took that elbow drop onto it. I think this was just his way of letting somebody know my arm's fucking broke. I'm gonna finish this match real quick and then we can go backstage.
Because I think they were clearly calling audibles right there because Brian was talking to him for like a good 2 or 3 minutes, and the crowd was just silent. And I'm like, oh yeah, something's going on here.
Yeah, because after this, it's only a few moves, it's a few kicks, it's a rainmaker, and then it's just this like 3-minute long segment of Danielson trying to hit the apply a submission hold, and he's doing it very creatively without an arm.
He uses his leg instead of his hurt arm. I thought that was really cool.
But you can tell
he can contort himself that way.
But you can tell he's holding his arm too like close. And the thing is, like, I don't think Okada knows, so Okada's pulling him into the Rainmaker with the fractured arm being the one that's getting extended. And I'm like, oh, fuck, Danielson, you can do this?
I know that had to hurt like hell too.
That hurt like
I think
a
that's
bitch,
what
I'm
was
sure.
Like, fucking Danielson. It's like adrenaline has to be like coursing through his nerves right now. He probably can't feel that, but like the fact that he's still
feels it today.
The fact that he's still going for like 10 minutes after fracturing his arm is absurd to me. Built different.
Bryan Danielson's built different, exactly.
The first man to make Okada tap in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Last person being Shinsuke Nakamura, which is a weird statistic if I think about it. You think out of all the Kenny matches there'd be at least something, but no, Kenny and him just beat the shit out of each other.
Yep. There aren't a whole lot of submission finishes in New Japan in general.
Yeah, there's not.
Except for the submission, like 1 or 2 submission specialists.
Yeah, and I mean, it's big for them to agree to let Okada tap like that after so long.
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel like that's probably Okada's call also. He probably doesn't need to be put onto a pedestal anymore since he's not, world heavyweight champion over there.
He's not the champion. He had his run as the guy. And again, I make the comparison to John Cena because that's what most of these people who are watching would have that instant comparison to.
Yeah, he's New Japan John Cena.
Yeah, he's New Japan's John Cena, where like to the point where after having the reign of doom, now he's doing the thing. Now he's doing his part and like putting people over.
Yeah.
So I think he just wanted to do that out of respect to Bryan Danielson because I know he was. I think Danielson was one of his bucket lists as far as wrestling goes, and he wanted to wrestle him forever. And I think he just did that out of respect to him.
Yeah. So I think there's a mutual respect here from both guys. And I mean, that's a huge honor to have too, because now Danielson can be like, I made Okada tap. The first in almost a decade.
This is
all it took was me breaking my arm to do it.
And just let that feed into Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. Please just give me it. Like,
I've wanted Zack Sabre and Danielson ever since Danielson did commentary on the Cruiserweight Classic.
If it wasn't this match with Okada, it should have been this match with Sabre. Like, I'm like, God, just fucking give us that technical masterpiece, please.
I hope we get to that point too, because that's going to be one for the ages. That's going to be a once in a lifetime.
Did you guys watch the media scrum for the previous pay-per-view for what Danielson was saying on it?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch any of the media scrims after.
So Danielson was asked, what do you think about I'm forgetting his name. The guy whose finisher is like the Tower of London.
Nigel McGuinness.
Nigel, fuck. Why did I forget his name? We're getting there.
That was brought up too because he's back in Ring of Honor. At least as an announcer.
He was brought up of how he feels about Nigel McGuinness saying that he wants one more go in the ring and he wants to fight Danielson. And Danielson was like, I think McGuinness should shut his mouth because I've been wrestling for all these time and he's been doing commentary.
Yeah. So like we have all these like potential just great matches to come out of it, but man, this Okada Danielson match, I feel like the ending was hindered because of the injury, but I mean this match itself was just phenomenal. Watch this match if you love like technical wrestling.
If you want a nice 20-minute clinic, this is the one to watch.
storytelling, in ring, psychology.
If you're on a plane and you need to watch something for your flight, put this on your playlist.
Yeah. This is going to be considered like a classic. I think it's just in wrestling, not even just AEW. Like, this is just a great match.
I don't give a shit what the star ratings are for this. This is 5 for me.
This is gonna be a top 10 finale of the year for me.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit about star ratings.
Well, good. Don't.
Or nobody should, because it's all every time. Because Dave Meltzer, every time he like comes out with something, everybody's like, "No, you're wrong," because like they said you're wrong. So why are we even listening to this guy much anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the last hour of this pay-per-view, just from the Omega match to this match, is just absurd. Like, it's such a good pay-per-view, and fuck, I'm gonna be watching Money in the Bank and be like, I could be watching Forbidden Door 2023 again.
Like I said, it was a very good pay-per-view for me. I think those I think when we're talking about absolute like elite pay-per-views,
yeah.
I don't think it quite hits that for me, but I do recognize it was a very good pay-per-view, and I think those mistakes with those little fine-tuned mistakes like Paul Turner missing a call and like Danielson convulsing because he fractured his arm, so he had to be able to call that spot. And just like the general, all these matches felt like they either had too much time or too little time.
And I think that's from the Cole match.
Yeah.
It's just a curse, man. Adam Cole's missed both Forbidden Doors.
Well,
different reasons.
Illness at least means it's a flu or COVID or something, and it's not like he broke his arm or something.
Now he has to wait a whole other year. Now he has to wait a whole other year, though.
This pay-per-view's cursed for him.
He can just fight Jay White on Dynamite. He doesn't need to wait.
It should be All In if they build up to that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's CM Punk and them are feuding with Bullet Club Gold right now.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what comes of that.
It's surprising to see the Guns like in the position that they're in still. But I mean, it's interesting because we have a month until All Out, or I think like All In. So that's August, and then this fucking weekend we have Money in the Bank. So,
yep.
Oh man, busy times here at the Square Triangle podcast.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, that's all I really had about the pay-per-view. I thought it was a very good pay-per-view.
Yeah, great pay-per-view. I probably agree with you. Not one of their AEW's best, but the match quality on it.
The match quality was very good. Like
for the matches for a lot of the matches, the quality was there. So.
Taking nothing away from the competitors. The competitors were great. It was just like production issues.
Yeah.
Production is fine.
And one more thing to add. I think as far as the pacing goes, some things got cut due to time, and others got time got added in some spots. But also also from a pro wrestling standpoint, the pacing of these matches was a little slower than your typical AEW match. But I think they made it work. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I think if they just kind of stick with the kind of slightly slower wrestling style, they can flesh out psychology and in-ring stuff a lot better. It felt different for me, but it felt different in a good way.
I think we talked about it in the Discord. A few of these felt like New Japan matches over AEW matches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked.
The two longest matches on this show, I think, were this Okada match at like 25 minutes and then the Omega match at anywhere between 35 and 40. So pretty much like the last hour.
I know they called for Omega, and I know they specifically called the 30-minute warning.
Yeah, they were keeping track of the time, so I was like, oh fuck, they're gonna put on an hour like masterclass. It's like, no, 36 minutes in, I think it's where the conclusion happens. So
yep.
I was like, oh, that's different. But I do like how they're keeping these little things in mind, like the time for title matches and all these other like little things. It just makes it feel more thought out.
Yep. The other note I have is since CM Punk won in the quarterfinals, he goes up against a match that I didn't think I was going to see on national television. Roderick Strong and Samoa Joe on this Saturday on Collision.
Oh,
he fights the winner of that match.
Oh, they're going to make it be Punk and Joe, and they're going to give Punk his win.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's the story. He's gonna get his win over Joe because Roger Strong's probably gonna like hurt Joe enough that Punk can. But I do like how Punk and the two other guys are big Ring of Honor like alums.
Yeah.
So a lot of Ring of Honor energy in AEW, which
sure
makes sense because they bought Ring of Honor. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see where all of this goes, and that's probably gonna be the finals, man. Joe and Punk at All In.
No, it's the semis.
No, they're the same bracket.
They're,
they're
the same, they're on the same side of the bracket.
Oh man, so yeah, it's gonna be Punk getting his win over Joe.
That's gonna be a main event of Dynamite or Collision, one of them two.
Yeah,
probably.
All right, but yeah, that's all I pretty much have. I loved this pay per view. I can't wait for the next one.
I really liked it.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
But all right, anybody else have anything left?
Nope.
We are sorry for being gone for several weeks. We've been out here in the wilds, just kind of existing.
Again, we all have full-time jobs and responsibilities.
Yeah, I also didn't really like reach out for a few weeks and be like, "Hey, we doing podcasts?" So,
so next week for sure we're gonna cover Money in the Bank, and then after that we'll see.
Yeah, so you're gonna get probably two back-to-back episodes of Square Triangle, and then we'll be back to our regularly scheduled podcast, hopefully. But yeah, you guys can find us on YouTube, which you're probably watching the video on, or if you're watching the podcast, you can find us on YouTube. We have a Twitter. All that stuff is in the description. X, thanks for joining us again. We always like having you here.
Always a pleasure.
Also, if you're watching the video, you notice the two of them have Bullet Club shirts, and I do not, because I do not own a Bullet Club shirt, despite being a wrestling fan.
Give me. There we go.
Too sweet. So, thanks everybody for watching, and yeah, this group will see you again next week, and then Deca and I will see you after. So, take care, everybody.
Later.
Have a good night.
A good one.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Square Triangle. Find us wherever you get your podcasts under the Without Context podcast. Find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@WCNetwork.